Dean here, back at it with TJ, returning champion. No, that was Friday's show, right? Myself and TJ and Bobby was just kind of like a neutral party there. We got into it. It's round 2 tonight, TJ. It should be fun. Had a good time. I'm sure we're going to have some disagreements. If nothing else, we got to manufacture some. It's just a 5-game slate. We got an hour and 20 minutes to knock it out before we hand it off to the Crunch Time crew. How is the greatest DFS player in all of Saskatchewan, Canada these days?
Barely feeling like I am that, Dean. I've been so hot on my calls lately, from the Jameson Williams big TD to a bunch of other stuff, that I just really feel like this should be part of a hot streak. And then Saturday, when we had the craziest day for injuries in the NBA, I could just identify the exact moment in my process where I was thinking about bumping up Paul George's minutes projection, and I forgot to do it and then didn't get to any of him. On Sunday, I was on crunch time and I realized I don't have enough Jacksonville pass catchers for my Lawrence stacks. I could either add in Evan Ingram or I could X out Trevor Lawrence, and I just didn't get to any Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
And just those two exact moments that would have just made for huge days because I was right about all the other stuff. But can't let the bad beats get me down. All the other plays were right. That just didn't. The process was almost perfect, just not quite. And so head up, we're gonna keep it going for the next one. And I'm grateful that Devin saw our enjoyable arguments from last show on Friday and was just like, wow, we need these two together more often.
Yeah, sometimes you're on the Crunch Time show. I like when you come on here as well. We kind of banter back and forth. Not to be a big jerk, but the Jameson Williams call, you got lucky, man. The dude was barely on the field, and he hasn't been on the field all year.
Except for, I mean, you're 100%.
A broken play in the secondary where he got loose for 40 yards.
Except for, I did say specifically on my take in Crunch Time that the reason I like him for GPPs was, although he wasn't going to be on the field a ton, I think they'll have specific plays drawn up for him.
Yeah. Here's the play. You lose yourself in the secondary. They're not going to cover.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it was a little bit lucky, but I mean, it was the type of lucky that I just kind of felt like they're probably going to try and get him 3 or 4 touches, and they'll probably be valuable ones. And he was $4,500 on Fanduel and no one playing him in a game that everybody liked. But
I didn't know he was 4 or 5 on Fanduel. Okay, I thought you redeemed yourself with that.
Yeah, he was that. It's just like he went off. When are you ever going to get a guy who is the same price on Fanduel and DraftKings, and when you're not worried about the PPR stuff, you just need the TD. So that's kind of why I liked them. But still, no Evan Ingram, no tournament takedowns. But we're on to this NBA slate. We got a fun little short one, although we're still waiting on some pretty necessary news that without it, I feel like there's not a whole lot we can fully break down yet.
That's interesting because I don't think there's a lot of news that we have 2 pieces, I suppose, right? Maybe this is just me being cocky. I just think I know that De'Aaron Fox is playing tonight. He went through a shoot around. He's questionable. He went through a shoot around, and he didn't really have this. He's kind of sort of dealing with the leg problem, a foot problem. You want to get all technical. But he was playing through it and just not playing well. They just kind of gave him okay, you just chill and rest for a little bit. I think he's coming back tonight. And everybody else we know about. Robert Williams has already been ruled out. Time Lord. I think Boston does not play until Friday, so maybe they debut him on Friday. Don't have to worry about him tonight. And everybody else that's, we have nothing really to monitor. LeBron is in, Davis is in. Again, famous last words. Chris Middleton left that game on Saturday, never came back, but he's already been rolled in. Stay tuned.
So is that what I'm missing? Am I missing on Drew Holiday news? Because that's the biggest one that it's I guess you're 100% right. In terms of amount of news, it's not a lot, but that's the one that greatly shaped how I want to run my main lineup today, because that Philly-Sacramento game, obviously we like that. We're going to like the Phoenix side a lot without Devin Booker going up against Houston, and then New Orleans, Utah, it's very close. But I think this Golden State-Milwaukee game is going to have kind of like the highest GPP upside on the slate if we happen to get Drew Holiday ruled out in this one.
Yeah, and we don't really, there's really no way of gauging that. He's ill, he had the fish. We're not really sure how much fish he had. We'll say questionable. 7:30 start as far as the game, so I assume we will know. And plenty of beat writers on that one, I would imagine, because it is an ESPN game or a TNT game as far as the national TV broadcast. So I'm guessing we'll get news on that before 7 o'clock. You mentioned the Suns, no Booker. if you the tricky thing, you're talking about the Warriors, like you want to get some Steph, you want to get some Giannis, but we live in a world with salary cap, and the salary savers on this slate as of right now, it's a 5-gamer. It's not great. I don't totally believe this one, but our best point per dollar play right now is Dario Saric, 3.3K on DK. He's the only one that's projecting for more than 6x. We're projecting him to start. There's no guarantee he starts, but he certainly can start. 8:00 game there against Houston. Is that a comfortable play for you? Because it's not a comfortable play for me, and I think there's some interesting pivots away from it. Pat Connaughton is another guy that's got a similar price point that the ownership's going to be distinctly lower, I believe. Maybe that changes if Holiday doesn't play. Stay tuned. And there's one other guy that was kind of cheap, and I was like, well, let me see if I can find him. I'll just throw it to you. Your take as far as the cheap stuff to make the expensive stuff work tonight, as of right now, is not great for me.
I agree with you, and so we'll dive into that more when we get to the Golden State-Milwaukee game, but that's one of the reasons I'm waiting on that so heavily, is it would open up the Javon Carter's, Pat Connaughton's even more and kind of take them to a bit better of value on this slate. But outside of that, we really don't have much. If I'm looking at FanDuel right now and I sort by RG value, Saric is the first one on the board below 6K, and he's at a negative 1.24. Everybody above him, and there's 10 guys, are all 6K or above, with Draymond Green being the only one at 6K. All the others are 6'4" below or above. So value's tough to come by. That's why I'm hoping there is some opening up in this Milwaukee Golden State game a little bit.
How much is Carter? I haven't even looked at him because that's something I should have prepared. Yeah, he's 3-3 on DK. That's probably really. He's not going to be the number one target, obviously, or number 2 or number 3, but he should be on the court a good bit. 3-3 on DK will probably be pretty usable. On FanDuel, he's 4-6, which is, I guess. Well, you're probably focusing more on FanDuel today, I presume.
Yeah, I am. I can I've kind of looked at both as I would kind of always before going on a show, but 4-6 on FanDuel is not good value, but on this slate, it actually might be.
I bet
I wouldn't target him. I wouldn't have him as a core play for value as maybe that I would on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, if all of a sudden you need 4-6 for a last piece and he fits, I think he's somewhat interesting today. But then outside of that value, I do think there's some interesting ones for tournaments. But in terms of cash, single entry, optimal type stuff, it's going to be pretty difficult not to stick mostly in the mid tier here today.
By the way, we do have, if you're a premium member, we have a what if Holiday is out, what if Melton is out, and a what if Fox is out. We'll talk about everything game by game. Obviously, we have 5-game where we can sort of give the overview before we got to dig in. I like this, kind of the screenshot, how you're seeing the slate. And I ran some optimals too. I ran them earlier. I'm going to look at them in a second, but it's all Phoenix guys, blowing up the optimals on DK. I think 4 of them were almost 4 of the top 5 as far as ownership were Suns. Booker's out. I'm sure the people are aware of that. If Holiday doesn't play, we currently have Carter getting 21 DK points, 21 FanDuel points. 21 DK points will be usable, I think, as a median score at 3-3 on FanDuel. You could play him, but it's not a spectacular play. Middleton will jump up to 34 DK points, 33 on FanDuel. I assume, what do we have as far as his minutes? Probably around 30. He's basically, with the exception of leaving last game, it seems like his minutes are mostly ramped up. Not going to play 34, 35, 36, but also national TV game. You get those extra commercials in. At 82 games in this season, this one certainly is more prime. The game against Golden State, I feel like the players get up for it. I feel like they get an extra minute or two if this game is close. That's just my opinion, but I've not seen the math on that. But do you not feel the same thing as far as that? Milwaukee versus Golden State, we get an extra minute or two out of Curry and Giannis if this game is close, and a couple of the other key players.
And if Drew Holiday is out too, it just makes it so much more stackable with all of a sudden the values of the Connaughtons, the Carters on DK. But in addition to that, Milwaukee's defense is probably going to be significantly worse on those guards, on Curry and Thompson and Poole without Drew Holiday today. And so you add that into the equation, you add the extra potential minute or two, the national TV. This is one of the more interesting tournament games on the slate, I think, considering how much we're going to see people going to that Phoenix and Houston game.
Yeah, and somebody hit the player I was talking about in chat. Derek, was Derek who mentioned it? Lee is the guy I was looking at for Phoenix as a potential pivot away from Saric, but maybe it's not a pivot away. Maybe like he's going to be popular as well too. Let's just see what my optimals are. Yeah, so I'll jump in FanDuel in a second, but I ran 145 optimals on DK, right? Don't ask me why I picked that number. And I capped it at 74%. I can't have any more than 74% of one player. And 5 of the first 6 players, this stuff will change, fluid, yada, yada. But as of right now, Saric, Chris Paul, who's got an egregious price on DK. He's 6'2" over there. We'll talk about it. Jordan Poole, the only non-Sun hitting that as far as the top 6 on the Family Feud board. DeAndre Ayton, Damian Lee, Mikal Bridges. The absence of Booker, the combination with that, and Houston, great matchup, obviously, and not a ton of value as is. That's where we're at, man. The very first optimal lineup, not going to – and again, this stuff changes, doesn't matter, but it's worth noting. It might not change, actually, because, again, not a lot of news out there lurking, but things happen. It's the NBA. 4 Suns, 3 Pelicans. The next one, 4 Suns. The next one, 4 Suns. Yeah, 5 Suns it actually cracks it. And as far as FanDuel, let's get FanDuel a little bit of love as well. Not the same. Not the same story over there, but you are getting Bridges at 59%, Saric at 46%, Paul at 32%, Torrey Craig at 29%. It feels like the Suns are going to be really popular today. Are you setting any rules as far as the Suns?
If I were MMEing, I would probably be setting a few rules with them. I think when we get into that game specifically, we'll go break down, see who we like. But I don't know how. I don't really think I'd have to set too many on FanDuel. The one thing I'm going to say is just based on how heavily owned all these Suns are going to be today, I think by far my favorite one for tournaments is going to be Campaign.
Yeah, that's a good call. I actually like that.
Like his price has kind of gone back down. He's below 5Ks on both sites. 23% ownership on FanDuel, which isn't egregious. I think it's below 15 on DraftKings right now. He, to me, is kind of like the best tournament value on that team based on how few people are going to him today.
The thing is, I'm going to have a hard time not playing Chris Paul on DK. We'll get to it just because the price is so wacky. The absence of Booker, the matchup as well. It's just a perfect storm of how do you not play this dude? But, I like Campaign as a pivot away from, but maybe I might play him in addition to, although they might sort of correlate a little bit negatively, possibly, 2 ball handlers. We'll get to it. And by the way, in chat, producer Rob hanging out in chat. What's up, producer Rob? He says, and this is on you. This is just so you know, TJ, whenever you're on this show, you're the de facto person that grovels. Not happy with the number of likes we currently have, TJ. What are you going to do about that?
25 likes is indeed disrespectful, but, I'm running out of things for the people. At the end of the day, all they have to do is take this nice little hand of theirs. I got my wireless mouse here. Look how little I have to move my hand over. Yeah, I'm going to make you pull up the screen for this. If we're going to make people pull up the like button, I got to make you watch me here, give and take.
I'm watching you.
That's it. That's it. It was so quick, you might have missed it. I'll do it again.
You got a mouse, huh? Do most people have mouse? These mouse?
Nice. Well, so you see, I got my laptop here to get my dual screens going. So this is where I have a second laptop up here for the sole purpose of having the YouTube page up. Just hit the like button. And so definitely you got to do that. What do you choose, hands for feet or feet for hands? I think you're definitely choosing hands for feet. That one to me is really easy. But
hands.
We got 116 people watching. Unless people's have both of their thumbs and index fingers broken, which in that case, why are you even playing DFS? Just find something else to do instead. You should be able to hit the like button. So hopefully people can do that. It's at some point, if we don't start getting enough likes, they might have to reevaluate how they do things. I hope that's not the case, but we want to keep things free for the people. Hit the darn like button.
So I understand that's 4. So basically you have 4 hands or 4 feet. Is that what the question is? As appendages?
Yeah.
You gotta have 4 hands. I mean, that's it's not a great decision, but that if you're forced to choose, I feel like
I
you
don't
gotta
even
have
walk that much anyways. Like, I don't even really move around that much. I can just, I'd way rather have more ability to grab things.
Would you walk like a cat though if you had 4 hands for instead of 4 feet?
Maybe that does sound good. I probably get pretty good at walking on my hands. Yeah, I think that would be doable. But I mean, think of how much easier it would be for me to hit the like button if I had, and just like slid my foot over there. Like it'd be even easier if I had more hands to do so.
Is there anything else of note that we should mention before we kind of dive in and break it down game by game, or shall we just go for it?
I think we can just start going for it, and then while we're in each of them, talk about the what ifs and really kind of go into some like potential GPP low owned type values in these games.
According to our poll, 80% is saying hands for feet. Feel free to join the poll there. Producer Devin's on top of it, having a good time. Just checking the Twitter, seeing if anything's changing. And again, I don't think there's a lot of news breaking. We'll see. Stay tuned. Yesterday, we kind of saw yesterday coming with Atlanta and, who was that? Who did Atlanta play against? Memphis. Sacramento's facing Philadelphia tonight. That is the very first game on the slate. There's only one game at 7 o'clock. The games are evenly distributed. 7 o'clock, Sacramento, Philly. 7:30, Golden State, Milwaukee. 8 o'clock, Phoenix, Houston. And then there's a 9 o'clock game, Utah at home versus New Orleans. And the battle of the nicknames, right? Yeah, Utah stole that nickname from them. And then Boston versus the Lakers at 10 o'clock. As far as the body parts, I'm assuming, maybe I'm wrong to assume, I think De'Aaron Fox is going to play some basketball tonight. He's currently questionable. D'Anthony Melton is questionable for Philadelphia. Otherwise, they're fully healthy. We haven't seen Maxey for a while. We're not going to see him for a while, I don't think. With Fox back, this is a weird game where I only love a few players. If I have the salary, I like Embiid a good bit. If I have the salary, I like Harden. I like him on DK a pretty good bit at 9.7K. I'm not sure if I have the salary for DK. We'll see. Try to make it work. Good matchup here against Sacramento. Fox being back is certainly going to hit guys like Herter and Barnes and Monk and David Mitchell. Forget about him. Matthew Dellavedova got dusted off, but that's it. He's done so. It's kind of an if-then. Do you want to just talk about it if Fox isn't in for whatever reason?
D'Anthony Melton ruled out. Januel House now doubtful. So that clears things up a little bit in this one for us to talk about. On the Sacramento side, if Fox is out, he's disappointed, but Davion Mitchell still becomes a value. I think Malik Monk and even Terrence Davis become two of the more interesting tournament plays on the slate. Davis only played 9 minutes last game, but it was also his first game back from injury. And so if De'Aaron Fox is out, I think we could see Terrence Davis pick up a little bit more run. And we've seen the type of ways he can smash in limited minutes. So I think he'd become a very interesting value alongside Davion Mitchell if De'Aaron Fox is out. And then if Fox is in, I don't really have a lot of interest in anybody on Sacramento, except if I'm in large field stuff, still would play Malik Monk. I'd still play Domantas Sabonis. And then I actually think De'Aaron Fox would become one of the more interesting tournament plays on the whole slate. Just based on, we're not going to play him because it's his first game back of injury. But low 8Ks, De'Aaron Fox at 1% ownership on a 5-game slate, like that is absolutely somebody who could win you a tournament if he's just not limited. And so with Embiid being the highest raw point projected player on the slate, people are going to like getting to Harden today. I think De'Aaron Fox becomes a very interesting run back for tournaments if he plays.
That's surprising. I didn't realize Embiid was projected for more points than Giannis. It's close, but yeah, we got Embiid a little bit higher, just a tick higher than Giannis. I think that would change.
And in addition to that, D'Anthony Melton is a very good defender, and that is who would be guarding De'Aaron Fox, who no longer will be.
The Fox one is tricky because he was really good at the start of the season. Sacramento's been overachieving. I think they're overachieving. Maybe I just don't think much of them. But I don't know how to quantify how much that injury is actually hurting him because he was bad for a while, until he took a seat. He was playing through something. He was clearly not 100%. If he comes back tonight, is he 100%? I don't know. Is he 90%? Is he 95? Again, in the vacuum, I like that price. I don't know if he's going to be. I assume the rest didn't hurt, and it's a good run back for sure if you're considering Harden.
If you're playing 1 to 3 lineups, I can't imagine you get to Fox unless you're playing 3, 4 Sixers in that lineup. But if you're running 150, to me, that's like the best player on the slate to just 5x the field. You get 5 to 10% De'Aaron Fox in your 150 lineups. Like, that's super easy to do. And you're going to have so much more than everybody else. He does a Paul George thing like Paul George did on Saturday night, and that's how you win the slate.
Do we really think Fox is going to be 1%? He's not going to be 1, is he? I got 2 on DK for what it's worth, but yeah, he's not going to be more than like 6 or 7, but you're probably around 4 or 5, maybe 3. And yeah, I agree. If you're running 150, you got to get some.
On our site right now, we have him at on DraftKings, like you said, it's 2, and then on FanDuel it is 1.8. And like if you look across the industry right now, he's projected sub 1%.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Like, it's not the most optimal play, but again, at 8.4 in a vacuum a month ago, he was a good play. Interesting. And I don't know if they're going to hold him back a few minutes or not, which may be a thing. We'll see. Stay tuned. We'd like to get a report on that. But like you said, if you're firing a bunch of lineups, it's very, very easy to get over on that projected ownership. We had 11 minutes for House. We had checking to see how many minutes we had on Melton. We must have 30 minutes for Melton. We did have an if then for Philadelphia as well. This did not include House because House was projected for 14 minutes now if we have Melton sitting. So there's still 14 minutes yet to be delegated with it. Earlier they had Harris getting 31 DK points. The thing is, like, nobody else rises. It's just going. There's too many other bodies. There's Thibault, there's Korkmaz, there's Yang, and they're all going to get. Milton's going to get 20-ish minutes or so. I don't think there's one clear winner out of this. That's like you could throw darts if you want, but outside of Embiid and Harden, like Harris is so clearly the third option. It's not like he's cheap or anything.
It would make me want to throw if I was running 150 lineups, it would make me want to throw darts at Korkmaz, Shake Milton, maybe even Thibault or Niang. Niang more so than Thibault, but just in case one of those guys gets hot and ends up in the closing lineup, plays mid 20 minutes kind of thing. If they put up 22 fantasy points outside of Milton, who's priced at 5K, but like if you played Niang, Thibault, Korkmaz, and they get you 20 tonight, you're very happy with that. And it's very possible one of them could. We have no idea which one, and one of them might not, but it's very possible one of them could. So if I was playing 150 lineups, I'd try and get a little bit of each of them.
Thibault needs like 8 steals to do that, basically.
Yeah, I wouldn't play him on DraftKings. I would just do it on FanDuel where it's like, oh, that could actually happen where he gets 3 steals, 3 blocks in 4 minutes, and then he's optimal.
He's a 0.5 fantasy. I'm pulling it up now. His usage on the season, 9%, which is that's not ideal. 0.53 on DK, and like you said, to your point, at least better on FanDuel because of the stocks. 0.6, which obviously still not good. He is
and his 0.6 isn't a 0.6. Like his games are 1.5 point per minute or 0.1 point per minute. Like there's not really much in between for him because that's how he's scoring those points is steals and blocks.
Who do we think is going to start for Melton?
Milton.
You think Shake's going to jump in there?
Yeah.
He's 5'2" on DK, and Yang is probably like the rotation's going to be pretty tight, I think.
If it's not Milton, that gives me more interest in taking a shot at whoever it is. Like if it happens to be Korkmaz or Niang or Thibault, then that would give me more intrigue in taking a shot at one of them. But if it's Milton, that actually makes me like Milton less than if he's coming off the bench because I think he likely closes this game anyways. Or if not, still, like I'd way rather have his usage off the bench staggered with Harden as opposed to starting alongside of him.
Cooper wants to know, why would Shake only be expected to do 20 minutes? Okay, so we had him before expected for 21, and this stuff, obviously changes too. If Melton is out, but also House is out, and House was projected for 14. So I imagine we're going to give some of those 14 minutes to Milton as well. So maybe it also depends on who starts, and if Milton starts, I'm not a projection team, but I assume he'll probably jump up to like 28 or something like that.
De'Aaron Fox will play. Good call on that one. I actually think, though, like, what are your thoughts on moving ahead to the next game, and then let's finish with this game once hopefully we have the starting lineup for Philly before the crunch time crew gets here.
We wanted the starting lineup, but we will have projections, and which we probably can work on.
I bet we have a starting lineup though too. Like, it's the first game of the night.
Have you met Doc Rivers? We don't know if Embiid's in or out. Like sometimes 7 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's a very good point.
This
is why I need you to make sure you're heeding my great points when I raise my voice at you, because look at how quickly I back down when I realize I'm wrong.
I wish we did, but I would bet against us having the starting Philadelphia lineup at like 625. We might.
And if we revisit that, my final hot take was wrong, but I was right on the money that you were going to need one of those small forwards from Atlanta to win a GPP.
Oh, man. No, that was a fun conversation. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the next game, Golden State, Milwaukee. A lot of fun to watch. First half of that ESPN doubleheader. 234 is the total. This is an 0, and we're kind of doing an if-then dance with Holiday. Holiday had the fish, so he is questionable. Otherwise, Milwaukee, I believe, is fully healthy. Let me just double-check here. Middleton, we're assuming just he left the last game with an ankle, didn't come back. Everybody else is available. They have a ton of dudes, which is why I'm a little bit hesitant on Carter. But again, on DK 3-3, if Holiday goes out, like, what do you really need to make stuff work? Connaughton as well is one of those interesting cheapies projected for around 20 fantasy points. Certainly, there's some 3-point variance that can get higher. If he's not making his shots, he can get like 7 points. As far as the Golden State side, they are healthy with the exception of Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins not playing tonight. Therefore, we're projecting Curry, Poole, Thompson, Green, and Looney to be the starting lineup. Feel free to start wherever you want in this game. Curry is, again, not going to be owned. I think a little bit more so on FanDuel because the price is about $1K cheaper. Although, of course, on FanDuel, you don't get that 3-point bonus where Curry is useful on DK. Warriors, Bucks, start wherever you wish.
So this Milwaukee game on DraftKings specifically is very similar to how I felt about, and I mean a little bit on FanDuel, but not as much because of how much higher the prices are on, not like on Carter. Like Grayson Allen is the same price on DraftKings as he is FanDuel, but Carter is obviously way cheaper on DraftKings. So I view Carter, Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen, if Drew Holiday is out in this one, even though it doesn't feel like that big of an injury, just looking at the scope of this slate and then this game specifically with Golden State running Curry. Okay, we got these projections here, so we can roll back to that soon. But we got Curry, Poole, Thompson. 3 guards. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Thompson's tall and can be a small forward, but 3 guards who are going to play a lot, and you're going to have Poole or Curry on the floor at all times. Now, Drew Holiday is their main guard defender in that situation. So if he's in, because of how Golden State plays with Poole and Curry, you likely could see a situation where they run Giannis at the 5 and are playing a bunch of guards today. And if that happens, because they're going to need people to specifically guard Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, running off these screens all the time. Now, maybe Chris Middleton does that, but I think it's more likely they match Middleton up with Clay. And so if that is to happen, then we look at Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, and Javon Carter needing to play extended minutes for the purpose of guarding Curry and Poole. And so what I like about these 3 players is that one of them will likely be playing big minutes in closing if this is a close game, because they're going to need the bodies to chase Poole and Curry off of screens. If this is a blowout, those are the 3 guys that also, like, either way, these are all the 3 guys also that probably see extended run in this game once the Golden State starters get out of this game. George Hill, I don't think fits that category because I don't think he can D up any of the guards, and I don't think he plays that heavily in a blowout. And so even though, like, they'll project decently, some of them are already projecting Grayson pretty well. Like Grayson Allen's projecting for 20% ownership on FanDuel at almost 5x his salary.
Wow.
But if these guys go out, their projections are going to be going up heavily. And while I wouldn't want to play more than 2 of them in my lineup, I feel like one of those 3 players, if Drew Holiday is out, is going to be optimal today because we have such... De'Aaron Fox won't have a minutes limit. Ooh, I like him in tournaments today. Kind of how I'm looking at
lineups. Are you playing them?
I think I'd play him in one, yeah. Because how I'm looking at this right now is basically if I'm only playing one, but if Holiday is out, I'm looking at the Golden State Milwaukee game as my primary stack, and then if Holiday's in, I'm going to be looking at Sacramento and Philly as my primary stack.
Okay, yeah, but so this is the interesting thing as far as Milwaukee defensively. It's worth noting against Golden State. Golden State, of course, firing a bunch of threes last year. They allowed the most 3-pointers made to opponents per game. Milwaukee. They would just force you outside. They would, inside, you don't get any points that way. This year, they are allowing the 4th least amount of threes. Is that interesting? Is that of note? Just figured I'm throwing it out there. That doesn't mean I'm not going to not play the Warriors because they're going to somehow prevent them shooting threes. But if nothing else, I just thought it was an interesting stat, just how Milwaukee's changed their defense defensively. 25 games, whatever it is, sample size, yada, yada. But last year they were a 3-point funnel, and this year they are the opposite. Thoughts?
It's not enough to make me care if Drew Holiday's out because of how this sets up, and that also probably changes up their entire defensive scheme just because of the type of player he is. But if Holiday's in, and all of a sudden it's not as much value as it was before, that is enough based on how much I like some of these other games to pivot it off of being my main focus.
I think we get that Holiday. We'll see. We might get game time nonsense. Maybe they're playing games against Golden State. Who knows? Yeah, prioritization as far as Giannis, does this have to do with the rest of your lineup? You're going to play Embiid if you're playing Fox, but if you're focusing on this game, you're going to play Giannis and you're not going to play Embiid. Is that sort of a thought process? Or, Giannis and Embiid basically the same projection, basically the same price. I understand not the exact same position on DK. They're both center eligible. Do you have a lean as far as the big stud today? Is it Giannis or is it Embiid? You got to pick one as a starting point.
If Drew Holiday is out, it's Giannis. If Drew Holiday is in, it's Embiid. That's kind of how I'm looking at it today.
Yeah. All right. So
it's weird how much that's impacting my slate, but I kind of feel like with me only running one lineup today, I think I'm going to start my lineup if Holiday's in with Embiid, Harden, and Fox. And then if Holiday's again, don't get me wrong, this is very tournament minded and not optimal. I'm not saying you play Fox in optimal lineups, but if that's kind of how I'm looking at it, as if Holiday's in, I'm going to start my lineup with Embiid, Harden, and Fox, and if Holiday's out, I'm going to be starting it with Curry and Giannis.
Do you have a favorite fringe Milwaukee guy? And I guess everything is still kind of somewhat contingent upon Holiday, I suppose. But
didn't talk much about him, but assuming he's in, not overly. I guess maybe Grayson Allen or Pat Connaughton, still just taking a shot on one of them as a value. But if Drew Holiday's out, somebody I didn't talk about very much that I am interested in would be, I think this is the day we could take a shot on Chris Middleton.
Yeah, I know I didn't play on Saturday or Sunday, whenever it was, where he got, he left the game really early. I think he played 5 or 6 minutes or so. And obviously he missed a bunch of the year with, that was, I think, a wrist. So totally different body part. Just being precautionary, I suppose, because he was ruled in really quickly. I think he was ruled in yesterday, I want to say, as far as Middleton. So this wasn't could go either way. And as far as we know, he's going to be, I'm assuming he's going to be fine. He's well rested. And he's 6K on DK, which is, Middleton historically, 7.5, somewhere in that area, 7K player, right? Somewhere in the 7s. So it feels like a bit of a discount. Probably not going to play 36 minutes, but do I need him to play 36? I don't think so. 31 is our projection for what it's worth. Yeah, he's 6'9" on Fanduel. So I know you're focusing more so on Fanduel. 6K on DK, where he's going to be more popular. We did see him play before a 6-minute game, 31 minutes and 29 minutes in his previous 2. So I think 31's a perfectly fair projection. And fantasy point per minute's kind of conservative. So 6K. I'm going back. And I saw somebody in chat saying never again. Come on, Chris Middleton's going to be in this league 7 more years. You just retiring from DFS. he's never going to play Chris Middleton. There's going to be that game where it's just him and Giannis isn't playing. You're going to just say no? Are you a never again guy, TJ? You can't be a never again guy.
No, I don't think I have any players that I'm never again on. There's some players I very rarely play, like especially more so in football. Like I almost never play Kirk Cousins, which has been not great for me this year because he's had a good season, but like it's very rare that I lose money not playing Kirk Cousins. And so like he's one of those guys, but I have very few never played players. Like I'll play anyone for the right price.
Yeah, you got to be open-minded when it comes to that. I'm taking a peek at the chat. Kevin Smith, director Kevin Smith is working on Masters of the Universe, He-Man? Is that
like
what you're
Kevin
talking
Smith,
about?
like Jay and Silent Bob Kevin Smith?
Yeah. Not the former running back for UCF, Kevin Smith.
Did a whole season of Masters of the Universe that's on Netflix.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right. I like Kevin Smith. I liked the He-Man when I was a child. I was a Ram Man guy. That's kind of contrarian. Is he still a thing? Is he still in the universe?
Who was it, sorry? I like
Man?
moved. I don't know.
Is Ram Man, has he survived the cuts over the years? I don't know.
I don't know. It's interesting because a lot of people didn't like it because of a certain plot twist they decided to take it in like the first episode, but then if you stick with it, you quickly realize like, come on. Of course they're gonna do some things, but I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't aware. Yeah, I'll have to hit up. I got a friend of mine that I know. Well, I'm sure they're probably aware of it, but I like most of the stuff Kevin Smith does. At least if nothing else, it's interesting. Anything else to say as far as Milwaukee, Golden State? Do we talk about the Golden State side? There's Steph that you mentioned, Clay. I think Draymond's like my favorite dollar for dollar player on Golden State. I'm always a little bit squeamish at him, but I have to imagine. Well, typically I don't like to pick on Lopez. I didn't do the inverse as far as points in the paint, but if Milwaukee's not giving up any points outside, I assume they're giving up more points in the paint this year, and that's where Draymond obviously survives. Lopez will drag him out to some degree, which is probably going to hurt him as far as rebounds wise. Maybe lose a rebound.
I don't think Draymond will ever be guarding Lopez. I think when Lopez is going to be on the court, Looney will be on the court as well, and when Lopez is off, then Looney likely will be too. Or I guess maybe unless they put Looney on Giannis, and then in that case, Draymond would be the one on Lopez. And Lopez could have a big day because Lopez would guard Looney on the other end, and it's not like Draymond is going to be able to contest Lopez's shots. That's interesting.
I never play Lopez. He's just always a tick too expensive for me, and he just never really gets a ton of minutes. He's always just sort of fine. When is it ever like Lopez is a top 3 play?
On that note,
not saying you can't, for the record.
Well, yeah, he's just the type of guy that can, he's been blocking 3 shots a game this year, and so just based on that alone, he's had some monster games for tournaments. But I'm just kind of cluing in right now. I think I might like Jonathan Kuminga today.
Oh. Well, his minutes are fragile when everybody else is healthy. How many minutes are you expecting out of Kuminga? What do we have for? I'm guessing around 20.
Who else guards Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Yeah, it's not going to be interesting. Not going to be Curry. Not going to be Poole. I mean, they're going to throw Draymond on a good bit.
Could you not just see Kuminga end up playing, checking in with 2, 3, 4 minutes left in the first quarter after somebody has 2 fouls on Giannis, ends up playing the rest of the second quarter and also happens to be closing the game because he's their best option on him?
We're giving him 22 minutes, which is that's okay. I don't hate it as a thought. He's 4-4 on Fanduel. How much is he on DK?
4-3.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting for tournaments. It's not an optimal play by any means, but I think a lot of this Golden State player is very interesting for value for tournaments, especially if I'm trying to get a lot of Giannis and Curry in this game. Plays your Connaughtons and Grayson Allens and Carters on DraftKings if Drew Holiday's out, but then even on FanDuel, even on for the Golden State side, I don't think it's that crazy to take a shot on Looney on FanDuel where you can play him at power forward. And then Kuminga, DiVincenzo, and maybe even JaMychal Green on Fanduel where you can play him at power forward, because Green's another one of those guys that maybe they throw him at Giannis and he gets extended run. Again, this is 150 type scenario.
Yeah.
But even somebody in like a 10 lineups, 5 lineups, if I was making a game stack of that game, Kuminga and DiVincenzo would be 2 guys that I'd want to take shots on, because Kuminga, just for the specific purposes matchup of guarding Giannis. And then if you click on DiVincenzo, you look at his recent game log, like he's not only been getting minutes, but he's been playing really well. And so like those last 3 games, 17 minutes, 20, 28 minutes, 35, and 21 minutes, 26. He's a guy that I think could get a little bit of extended run in this one. And he's also been so damn aggressive when he's out there coming off the bench that like I could see him playing a lot of minutes from a defensive perspective, getting some steals and having a value performance that could be definitely on a GPP winning lineup.
T from LOC, Dean, be honest that you have a She-Ra action figure. I remember She-Ra. I don't think I may have. I wouldn't have been against it, I don't think. I remember I had the castle, like the He-Man castle. That was like the greatest Christmas present ever. With like the trapdoor. This is before your time. I don't think if I rehashed it or not. You know, Battle Cat was a guy. Skeletor, sure. How vengeful is DiVincenzo? Yeah, DiVincenzo. Is this first blood? I think it's first blood against Milwaukee. I feel like it is. First time they're playing against each other since the trade, or since him signing with Golden State.
I think it might be. And we got Revenge. We got Masters of the Universe. Hit the like button. We got almost 200 people watching right now. That's quite a bit for this early in the show. Usually people don't start filing in until a little closer to lock, you know? So 200 people, let's hit the like button. Let's see if we can get Devin is going to come in here and tell me no if I'm wrong, but if I am wrong, I can just like I'll just PayPal him some money or something. But I think if we get over 100 likes specifically before crunch time, if the crunch time crew guys get in here and it's not there, then we don't get it. But I mean, I don't know. Devin, what do you think? Can we get some kind of free?
We can make it work. Our Discord bot's been broken. He had to go back into the shop. So we got to come up with a new way to give out some freebies. So you know what? If we get to 100, we'll give out 2 winners.
You just hit the enter button. I thought you clicked the enter and that was a hit enter me or whatever it was.
Couldn't let it go past. That's great. Yeah, no, it is an easy steps to do on your end, Dean, the viewer's end, but on the back end, you know, where the magic happens, the sausage room, as other people call it.
Sure.
You know, things are a little bit in disarray. So yeah, we'll give away a couple of winners here if we can get to 100 likes before crunch time.
All right.
2 separate winners of 1 week free of RG Premium if we get up to 100 likes here before the crunch time guys get in here. I love it. That's less than half the people. That's easy. That's no problem at all.
Not to cut you off, but it's not just basketball. It's all the sports: football, baseball, basketball, golf. Are they playing golf right now? Is golf a thing? Not sure. NASCAR, I believe, was also. I can say all the sports because NASCAR typically is a la carte. If F1 is still a thing, I don't know if it is. World Cup, there's a couple matches still left to happen. Of course, congratulations to Messi and Argentina to the finals. We went team Messi versus Mbappe. That could be good times for sure. Yeah, all the sports. And you get the optimizer, you get the expert rankings, the expert survey. Things are crashing and falling over there. What's just tumbled over there at your parts?
That was me removing something from a bag. Somewhere in this room is a He-Man is like a Masters of the Universe toy that I have that I'm supposed to use for a giveaway for Agents of Fandom at some point. And if I could find it like in my view, I was going to say, let's give this away too.
By the way, have you got this? And I'm not aware of it. Or at some point you're supposed to get a tattoo. Is that not correct? Has that happened yet?
Oh yeah. That's something that should happen as well. To be honest, kind of,
regretting it.
No, I am going to get that tattoo. It's just like, I've just had a last few months that has taken a toll on the old mental health, and so it's just like I haven't been able to prioritize it yet. But like I am still getting that tattoo right there, and Kirk Dees and Dre are going to fund it. But there you go. It's just been one of those things that I haven't been able to put to top the priority list as so many other things pop up.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't want to. I just wasn't sure if it happened, if I missed it. But I remember that was one of the things you did on a stream where you basically said we get X number of likes and you're going to get yourself a tattoo. Your very first one. It's not like it's your 70th one and it would mean nothing. This is your very first one you'd get, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like once I do get one, it might open the door a little bit. But, you know, It'll happen when it happens. We'll make sure we
does.
take a video.
It does open the door. It is a very slippery slope. Prepare yourself.
Devin, you're like at 7 or 8 or 9. Where are you at right now?
Oh, you think so highly of me, Dean. No, I've only got 3. But
okay.
I've been wanting a 4th for years, so
I can guarantee. Sorry, yeah, continue with Devin.
What was that?
What is the 4th? Do you know where you're debating?
Oh, I don't have it. You know what? It's going to be a big old heart on my arm, and it's going to say "Mom" with a big anchor around it.
Has anybody ever done that before? That sounds like a great. It's pretty.
I mean, I'm going to do it, and it will be 100% genuine. So
I think Bart Simpson did that actually, if I remember correctly. But what were you saying, TJ?
I could guarantee that like the next time I post a 5-figure, 6-figure DFS screenshots, I will get the tattoo and post a nice video for all the RotoGrinders people.
Let's do it. Let's take it down tonight. Phoenix and Houston, 224 is the total. Phoenix 7-point favorite on the road in Houston. Booker being out obviously opens the door for plenty of usage for the Suns. That's why the Suns are popping. Cam Johnson still out. We haven't seen Jay Crowder all season long. Houston is fully healthy with the exception of Jayshawn Tate, who I think had a setback. We're not sure when we're going to see him again. But otherwise, Houston is locked and ready to go. We are projecting Dario Saric to start. That's why he is popping. I think there's fragility there. I think there's a chance that Lee starts. I suppose there's a chance. Well, no, you probably, you kind of need a bigger dude. Well, Jabari Smith is tall, but he's not necessarily girthy. But I guess Saric might match up there. I'm trying to think, would Craig step up to the 4? Yeah, Saric probably starts. Wouldn't be shocked if it's Damian Lee, another wing for them. Any event, this is more of a DK thing as far as Chris Paul. Certainly you can play him on FanDuel as well, perfectly fine. But 6-2 on DK. It's not so much that Booker's out. Yeah, Chris Paul. It's not just that; it's the price, and then always facing Houston as well. If you want to have your revenge narrative, go for it. It's 17th game against the Rockets since he's left them. He's very vengeful. He is kind of petty. We can say that. He was very angry about Zion dunking on the entire Suns last time out. Just like, play defense. How about that? Chris Paul on DK is like the first player you put in your cash lineup. 6-2 is too cheap. Start there, and then we touched on the Suns earlier, but branch out because they are peppering the optimals, especially on DK. A little bit less on FanDuel, but super popular in DK.
We need 33 more people to take their mouses and slide over it 2 inches. Hit that like button to get 2 free weeks of RG Premium. People, even if you have the premium,
holiday ruled out, by the way.
There it is. Bang! It discounts right off of your subscription. You get money off. Who doesn't need a little extra money at the Christmas season? That's 30, 40 extra bucks over if you win a couple of these that you get to put into your kids' stockings. Come on now. Don't make your kids sad on Christmas Day. And if you don't have any kids, then you get to buy yourself a little present. It's fantastic. Now on Phoenix, somebody mentioned in the chat, Saric has been starting lately, but he's only been getting 20 minutes. Do we really want to be playing him? Wow, Devin's so good at producing. He got that up before I even said it. There's a big difference between starting for Torrey Craig and starting for Devin Booker. That's not only is that more minutes, but it's a heck of a lot more usage. Don't get me wrong. Saric is still volatile and worrisome. However, it is a much bigger boost starting for Devin Booker than it is for Torrey Craig. However, we are still only projecting him for 21 minutes. From a cash perspective, especially on DraftKings, like there's Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton are the lock of locks. I honestly might play them in all 150 of my lineups over there just because of those prices. Like if I was running 150, I think I might just go Paul, Ayton, bang, done. Every single one of those lineups because those prices are so cheap. On FanDuel, where Paul is 72, I still think he's the top cash game play at guard. DeAndre Ayton is up at 86. That, to me, more is just a strong tournament play, nowhere near the lock and load thing. And then Mikal Bridges is another guy I'd be looking at, too, in cash games on both sides. I think he's a strong play. Saric is a good value, but now we just have more opened up on Milwaukee. We'll see how the projections update there. Obviously, Philly opened some up with that Drew Holiday news. And so Meansy will break that down for us on the next show, like what's the best cash value of that group. But Saric becomes a little less necessary and his ownership is going to go down a little bit. And I do think Damian Lee is an interesting one for tournaments there. And on the Houston side, Şengün is my favorite option. but I think I don't want to play any of them unless I'm running a Phoenix heavy lineup. In tournaments, if I'm playing these chalky Phoenix players, I want to run it back with 2 of Green, Smith, Şengün, Kevin Porter. But if I'm doing a lineup where I'm like kind of fading these guys, these Phoenix guys a little bit in tournaments, then I'm not going to be playing any Houston ones.
Smith's minutes have been really encouraging of late. I think he's pretty interesting. I think Şengün's my favorite, but he's a center, so it's harder to make work. I like Green a good bit, but his price has been pumped up for sure. I just ran the old lineup HQ, kicked a Booker off the court. Campaign has the biggest usage, 32.1%, 1.3 DK points per minute. That's in 184 minutes. I think some of that is without Chris Paul as well, so it's probably a little bit fraudulent, right?
But won't like look at it this way. Like this is kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
This is why I love campaign for tournaments today, is because he will probably not start. So that means the majority of his minutes through the first 3 quarters will be with Chris Paul. Or sorry, will be without Chris Paul. Okay, they'll be staggered the whole time for sure, and they'll play some together, but always one of them will be on the court.
You think so?
And then if Payne is crushing it for those minutes, he'll close. If he's not, he won't.
You're dead anyway.
Exactly. And so it's kind of based on if he's having a good game, he will get enough minutes he needs you to. He's projecting for 21. He'll get 28 to 30 if he's crushing it. But if he's not, then you're dead. So like that's kind of why I'm looking at him not as a cash play, but as a very strong tournament option.
So
unless he starts, then he's cash viable.
I'm looking at the most recent game. Campaign against New Orleans, played 23 minutes. He did not play much of the fourth quarter. That was an overtime game too. He played a couple minutes in the overtime. Let's see. Bridges played an OT. Why did Ayton not play OT? Was he kicked out? Was that a foul issue thing? I'm not sure if he had fouled out or something, but that's interesting. I assume he was fouled out. Lee and Craig. Yeah, Landell's in there. Listen, yeah, that had to be a foul out situation as far as Ayton. That is a little peculiar that Payne would only play 23 minutes. Of note, I suppose. But he's just going to – his minutes are going to be strong, like you said. And most of those minutes are going to be – not most. I shouldn't – enough of them that it's worth noting will be without Paul, and he's just running the show, right? I love the Ayton price at DK, like you mentioned, 7.2K. And it's just hard not playing these. The matchup against Houston's prime. We know Houston's awesome for stocks as well. So Mikal Bridges on Fanduel, we know when he gets busy. He hits his optimal when he gets like 4 steals and 3 blocks. That happens on occasion. One of the best defensive players, one of the best lockdown guys. Getting 3 points per stock. And Houston is top 5 in getting blocked and top 5 in getting steals. I think they're number 1 in yielding steals last I checked. So, big fan of Bridges as well. Perfectly fine with Torrey Craig. He's not going to break the slate, but, typically like a 3-and-D guy. And Lee is cheap. Should get some run. The Saric thing, man, I don't know. Like, okay, so if Saric is going to be 30% owned, I'm just throwing out a number, and like Connaughton's going to be like 6 or 10. Actually, that's going to probably go up too, isn't it? Because, Holiday being out. Just trying to think, like, are they kind of the same player? I guess Saric is a more clear path than minute.
In tournaments, I'd rather play Lee and Connaughton over Saric for sure. But like so the projection is just updated on FanDuel. Connaughton's projected for 18.7 points. I'm not sure what he's projected for on DraftKings, but
probably a little more because of threes.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering maybe if this. I see. I don't think it's updated yet. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it's all been. The points have been popped into play here, but I could be wrong. Because it looks like Grayson Allen is currently still.
No. They updated it because Giannis took over Embiid as a top scorer on the slate, so it's been updated. Their minutes are probably adjusted a little bit. Middleton.
There it is. Now my refresh is there. Connaughton over 20, Grayson Allen over 23, Javon Carter over 20. So I think this Milwaukee value has just become the best value on the slate now.
It's not like smash. It's not great, but it's the best what we have.
For DraftKings, like it's pretty darn good. Pat Connaughton is almost 7x his salary. Javon Carter,
21 points at 3-4 is not. He's projected for 25 minutes, and again, we know Connaughton's game. If he's not making 2 or 3 threes, his score is going to stink. and he gets replaced really quickly by Grayson Allen or really quickly by, Nora or even Jordan Hill, or they might dust off Wes Matthews, who's available.
For sure. But thinking back to what I said before, Javon Carter, Pat Connaughton, or Grayson Allen will now one of them be in the optimal lineup. So I think you on DraftKings based on those prices. So I think you have to make a rule if you're running lots of lineups, you're playing 1 to 2 of them in each of your lineups. And when you think about it, the lack of value we had before with still the exciting pay up options, like the kind of whole scope, that's why I thought this one was such a big deal, because like the whole scope of the slates kind of just changed. You went from choosing one of Embiid and Giannis and likely struggling to get another player like Steph, Zion, or Harden into your lineup to either being able to play Giannis and Embiid in your lineup, or Embiid and then 2 of Zion, Harden, and Steph.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to say everything's relative as far as a slate, but like to me, in a vacuum, a 3.4K player projected for 21 fantasy points is like, that's not a smash play. It's, it's the best of what we have, I think. It might be. He's right there with Saric. It's not like we had last night.
As it stands right now for FanDuel, Grayson Allen is the second best point per dollar player on the slate. Pat Connaughton is 4th. Yeah. And so I'm assuming that'll be even more drastic on DraftKings where their prices are lower.
Just because somebody has to be is kind of the point I'm making.
Yeah. And so if you think Embiid and Giannis or multiple of these stars are going to be optimal tonight, that's now your route to get there, because 20 fantasy points from a 3K player is fantastic when you're getting 80 from Giannis and Embiid. So it's like, if that's you pick the studs that you think are going to get there. And I think that's how we want to do it today, because beforehand we were really looking at having to fill our lineups with 5 and 6K players, whereas I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore.
We still only have 3 players that are 6X or higher on DK. Number 1 is Javon Carter. He's projected for 6.55. That's, he's 3-3, and we're looking at 21 fantasy points. Connaughton right there as well. Like, it's Connaughton and Carter, a little bit over 6X, and then Chris Paul, which kind of speaks to, like, generally speaking, this stuff skews towards players that are cheaper because that's how math works. But Chris Paul at 6'2", then Dario Saric, and then Chris Middleton, who's like 6K, and he's going to be really, really popular. I'm going to run some optimals. I want to see how things changed. I imagine we'll get maybe one less Sun. We'll see. We'll probably get a couple of these Bucks. Curious how it's going to go down. Couple questions here in chat. Let's see. Derek wants to know, is it okay to play 4 players from Phoenix, like Paul, Ayton, Bridges, Lee? All individually look pretty good. Would you play 4 in a tournament?
If I was running it back with Şengün or Jalen Green, like if I'm playing 4, I need to be playing 1, but probably 2 Houston players.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to get
No, just 1. You don't need 2. Based on the amount of value that just popped up elsewhere, I'd want to play 1.
Favorite props tonight? I was going to write this up early. I liked Zion over like 27.5 points. We'll talk about him soon enough. I don't know if that's changed since the last time I saw it, but he's obviously been on a tear. But like Utah, I talk about it all the time. As far as Utah, they are just a sieve inside as far as points in the paint. They yield the most points in the paint to opponents, more so than everybody else in the league. I think it's almost 2 points more than the absolute second worst team, which I believe is Detroit. So yeah, and Houston's also in that conversation, I think, as far as giving up points in the paint, if I'm not mistaken. So I liked him over, and Sigma McCollum I thought was a little bit too low too. I don't know if they both get there, which is kind of the problem, but I think you're worse splitting those two. McCollum I think was 21.5. Got his volume back last time, finally started to make some shots. Maybe he's feeling better these days. So I just ran optimals on DK. I mean, it's what you'd expect it is. It's $4. It's 3 Suns and a Celtic. The next one, 4 Suns, $3 and a Celtic. 2 Suns, $2, 3 Pels. So pretty condensed as far as the teams. And there's no correlation in that either, for what it's worth. Like as far as like opponent, game environment, that kind of thing. Just interesting. I put no rules in there. I just put rules as far as I was adding some variance. But all right, just thought that was interesting and worth noting. Obviously, it's Milwaukee and Phoenix. Like that's where people are going to be going to tonight, and rightfully so. There are places to get different.
Is there anyone on DraftKings today that's 3K flat?
3K, like 3K, like nothing. I can't even go 3-1.
No.
Yeah, all right. Let's see. Let's go to the lineups page.
There's a stupid lineup you can make on DraftKings if you can find a guard for 3K.
Okay, so
and it looks like you can.
Thibault's 3K.
George Korkmaz!
Furkan is 3K.
Are
you excited about Furkan Korkmaz season?
I just think I mean, to me, this is the most fun lineup you could possibly play on DraftKings.
Is it a game stack and then some cheapies? Or
you can play Chris Paul, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and DeAndre Ayton in the same lineup while only playing some of the top values on the slate. To me, that's got to be the duped cash lineup on DraftKings today.
I don't think that's going to be how it goes. As far as cash, I don't think that's going to be the way it goes. I don't think so. Like those are all good names, the ones you said, sure, but salary cap kind of comes into play. What did I have here? And like a lot of people use optimizers, and Chris Paul for sure, Carter for sure, Middleton for sure, Ayton for sure.
If it's not, I just think it should be because this is kind of stupid.
I think I'm
going to make a deposit on DraftKings right now just so I can put it in a lineup.
Embiid, for what it's worth, is just hitting 16% of my optimals. So he's not in cash. Like he's not, again, when people say you play him in cash, of course you can play him in cash. He doesn't fit like the build. I'm using quotes if you're not watching. But like, of course, Embiid's like fine for cash if you love everything else. Like Zion's 21% in cash. LeBron 17%. All right. Anything else of note as far as this game? I think we talked about it a lot. Your favorite player again from Phoenix, favorite player again from Houston.
Favorite player from Phoenix, Chris Paul on Fanduel, DeAndre Ayton on DraftKings, tied with Chris Paul, and then on Houston, probably Şengün.
Well, you mentioned Korkmaz. What kind of projection do we give him? Like, is he somewhere in the teens? What do we expect?
It was like 14 or something. It's just he was the high at 15. He was the highest one at 3K flat today, which to make this lineup fit for me.
And he theoretically could start this game, and if nothing else, we're projecting 24 minutes out of him.
We're projecting him as the starter right now, which is like Milton probably closes over him, but
I nailed that. I said 28 minutes for Milton. Remember my math before?
You did. Great work.
Kind of what I got to.
Get Dean on the projections team.
Oh, dude, I mentioned it enough. They don't want me in that room. I don't think I'm too opinionated. They do a great job, I should say. But all right,
it's so hard.
Oh, I don't want to. I want no part of OKC. I don't want any part of that. I'm calling out sick every time OKC is on the slate. Other teams too, I'm sure, but I'm sure it's not a fun job. It's a thankless job too, because like idiots like me are like, I know that 98% of that looks right and correct, but this right here, this guy should get 3 more minutes. You're wrong. Big jerk pointing that out. It is interesting though. Korkmaz at 15.5. If you're looking for a stone min punt, and of course he can get higher. That's a medium projection. Maybe that's usable if you're really in a pinch. All right, we got 2 games left here, TJ, before we hand it off to the Crunch Time crew. They're coming in about 15, 20 minutes or so, give or take. I believe it's Andy Means. I want to say SDL Cards. And, of course, Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth will be running the show. New Orleans and Utah. This is a fun one for sure. Zion is just, like, taking souls these days. Awesome to have him back in the league. So good. I wish he can hit threes. But, you can't have everything, I suppose. The total here is 232.5. Utah is a 1.5-point dog. So it is, as they say, it's high and it's tight. New Orleans still without Brandon Ingram. Herb Jones expected back tonight. So, lockdown defender there, a really solid defender for what it's worth. Utah, we're expecting Markkanen back from his illness. He should be good to go. Clarkson as well, not on the injury report. Same deal with Conley, who's old, so he rested. Fontecchio is still out. Of course, Sexton out for at least a bit there for Utah. Start with New Orleans and Zion, who's just awesome. And he's not going to be like incredibly owned because this is the peak of his asking price. But I touched on it before. The matchup is prime. He's going to destroy the likes of Kelly Olynyk and Markkanen and Vanderbilt and the rookie Kessler. They have no chance to slow him down.
Nope, they don't. And I love Zion tonight. He's in a great spot. It's like both sides. He's beautiful. CJ McCollum is just too cheap. He's eventually going to be back to being CJ McCollum, and when that happens, we're all going to wish we were on that train. Like, he's 44 minutes last game, 48 fantasy points. I've been saying it for a while now. Like, this is not the price CJ McCollum should be, especially for without Brandon Ingram. Like, coming off injury, he was not himself and not doing great, but like, this is almost 9K player for if Brandon Ingram's gone. So CJ McCollum's a great play, especially on DraftKings. And I don't really have a lot of interest in anybody outside of that. Like, if I was running 150, I'd be getting some Jonas Valanciunas today just because he's too cheap. But based on how much I want to play Embiid and Ayton, I don't think that's really going to be the case. Maybe on FanDuel where Ayton's tougher to get to, but I don't have a ton of interest in these guys outside of Williamson and McCollum. Yes, Nance is cheap on DraftKings. You can go there.
I was going to mention that one. Yeah, 5.7 on FanDuel, 4.4 on DK. And I think this really feels like a game where he closes over Valanciunas, like that they all tend to. And the only way Valanciunas gets run or extra run is like if he plays alongside Nance, and that's happened a little bit, but we can't assume
unless they end up putting Walker Kessler out there to go toe to toe with JV for 30 plus minutes. But I don't see that happening either. I think we're going to get low 20s for both of them.
Yeah.
And like when we look at this Utah side here, everybody's kind of priced to the point that I don't have a lot of interest in anyone other than just running them back for like when I'm playing lots of New Orleans guys. Like, Conley's fine, Clarkson's fine, Markkanen's fine. But like, I don't really want to get to any of them. And so for me, they're just kind of like run back options.
Yeah, my favorite Utah guy, if I had to pick one, is probably Conley, which I just don't even like saying that, but he's 5'4" on
exactly.
DK. Just the price is pretty good. It wasn't an injury, it's just maintenance deal last time out. But I don't like the Utah players. And again, they're going to be pretty healthy. The absence of Sexton doesn't matter too much. Trying to see what the chat's up to right now, see what's anything's on their mind. TJ, swap Ayton out for Nance and take out Cork. Yeah. I think Nance is...
That probably will be the cash game thing, but I like mine better.
Any Alvarado in large field. I love Alvarado as that's a guy I want on my team. He's just an awesome teammate. Seems super annoying to play against, but I don't know if I want him in DFS when everybody is basically healthy. I know Ingram's out, but you know what I mean. And the price is no longer the floor. I've not considered Alvarado today. On occasion he will close if he's just on fire and doing his Alvarado things, but don't think I'm getting there. You have a take as far as Jose Alvarado?
I think you can. Yeah, if I'm running a ton of lineups, I think I would maybe keep him in my pool on DraftKings specifically. But on FanDuel, no, and on DraftKings, just in a 150 max type of situation, only because Utah is probably going to close with Clarkson and Conley, so they might close with two small guards too.
So Donnie's asking,
it might not be Nance, it might be Alvarado.
The spotlets, that happens on occasion as well. Basically, he's talking about, I think, pivoting away from Milwaukee stuff. I think there's actually a chance Alvarado beats Connaughton and those guys, if that's the conversation. I don't think that's amazing. I don't want to say chalk, but value. It's fine. It's usable, but it's, not rock solid to play Pat Connaughton today when Milwaukee is pretty healthy. Obviously they're without Drew, but he's pretty replaceable with Allen and with Wes Matthews. Noir is out there. I'm not here trying to talk him down, but I just don't think Connaughton's this lock and load play, basically. So you can certainly get away from it. And Alvarado can absolutely outscore him, and there's a world that happens. But that's something you do in big field, tournaments, of course, especially when they're top heavy as far as the payouts. How much are you prioritizing Zion? You think you're going to get to him in your one lineup?
In my one, I don't think I'm going to have him just because I'm probably going to be looking to mix and match some stacks. But if I land on him, I'm definitely not going to be pivoting away. I love some Zion tonight.
Joe in chat's asking about Damian Lee. Yeah, we talked about him earlier. I think he's an interesting value play. Pretty good chance he doesn't start. and I think he's certainly usable. Interesting leverage against Šarić. He can absolutely outscore Šarić. Yeah, he's in my pool. Are you on board with Lee? I would like him to start, I guess, but I still think he's going to play like 26 minutes or something like that. And again, you get that boost against Houston. Where do you have Lee as far as your value plays?
Yeah, I'm interested in him for tournaments only, just because I agree it's a pivot off of Šarić. If he's playing well and he's hot, he's going to get minutes. If he's not, he's not. So he's a tournaments only play for me, and I do think he's very interesting for tournaments. But as a pivot off of Šarić, I like, just like in a vacuum, I like the Milwaukee value better. We got the Crunch Time crew coming in what, like 10 minutes? We still need 8 more likes for this giveaway. That's just it. We got almost 300 people watching now. If we get 8 more likes, we're giving away 2 free weeks of RG Premium. It has to be before the Crunch Time guys get there. We're going to do this Boston and LA game. And like, if we're finished that game and we got the likes, we're going to do the giveaway. But if not, like when Meansy and Roth get in here, they're going to just start getting into the slate. They're not doing these giveaways. And so you got to get this before they get there. As soon as you see their faces,
they don't like any nonsense. Yeah.
No nonsense. No nonsense whatsoever. So we're all about the nonsense.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pro nonsense. We also have like an hour and 20 minutes so that we can work some nonsense in. It's a 5
We just hit it.
That's the alarm.
Pro nonsense. Pro nonsense. Pro alarms. We hit the 100 likes. Devin,
I thought that was breaking news or something. I wasn't sure what happened. I just checked.
Giannis has ruled it. No.
Did somebody get a bell?
Devin, do we want to do the classic? You drop the 1 in the chat, or do you got something else in mind?
I don't have anything creative unless somebody's got a better idea. We'll just instead of 1s, let's drop 7s in honor.
I ran a poll today.
All right.
And I had a debate earlier today, and basically somebody was trying to tell me I shouldn't frame it in a way, but whatever. Now I'm framing it, I guess. Somebody was telling me that the best appetizer at a party, just general party, get together, whatever, watching a game, whatever, is deviled eggs, and I about lost my mind. I couldn't believe this. Like, I don't like deviled eggs. Mayonnaise, I'm out, deal breaker. But like, I couldn't believe that like this was a thing, and like they were like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, "How is deviled eggs the optimal?" So tell me your best appetizer, and Devin will pick be as creative as you want. And Devin, it's on you.
I think the 7s may have gotten to them first, but we'll follow up with favorite side dish or favorite appetizer, whatever Dean was saying, something about deviled eggs.
And also, is deviled eggs a side item? I was told on Twitter it's a side item. Like, what? My burger comes with deviled eggs?
I mean, what? Dean, I'm not serving the deviled eggs as an entree.
It was Mr. Tuttle's. He's in like the Midwest or something. Things are different there. I thought like cheese curds was the big deal in Wisconsin, but I guess you can get deviled eggs with your steak. I have no idea.
I mean, Tuttle's got 12 kids. You got to kind of make it work when you're at that
12
point,
eggs,
right?
12 kids. It works out perfectly.
You just start firing eggs at the kids.
Nobody gets seconds.
And hoping for the best. Stop with your 7s in the chat. We're giving our favorite appetizers.
For throwback to people that are not aware, this used to be the thing that got Dean razzled, was dropping 7s in chat, and he just couldn't handle it. So now I'm gonna back out, and I'm gonna try and find some appetizers amongst all these 7s.
There you go. And
drop your favorite appetizers in here as soon as we're done. I think I'm gonna make myself an appetizer for supper. I got some ground beef that's defrosting right now. It's thawing, and I'm gonna make myself some nachos, and that's gonna be my supper tonight. And
you have homemade nachos? Like you make the chips yourself as well, or
no? The chips are there, but like I'll put the chips on a baking sheet, sprinkle my cheese, sprinkle my ground beef, chop some onions, whatever else I want to put on there, and then put it in the oven. And I think that's gonna be what I'm having tonight.
Have deviled eggs made their way up to Canada too? We apologize. I'm not sure if it's an American thing or not, but for your sake, hopefully it's not a Canadian thing as well. Deviled eggs, is that a thing that happens in Texas?
I don't know if that's American or Canadian, but you just reminded me of the Talladega Nights scene where you're basically John C. Reilly being like, we invented a lot of great things here, like pizza, Chinese food.
It's crepes. It is the little waffle. We actually have a couple of
very thin pancakes.
We have a couple of answers here that I think are worth it. So we'll start with Jay Kearney. Deviled eggs with shrimp on top. I like that one because it's just tilting you even further.
It sounds southern.
That sounds awful. That sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could ever do
You're
it.
gonna make me throw up on stream. How
Here,
are you
let
gonna
me-
give them a free week for that?
Let me put our Twitter handles on screen here. Jay Kearney, just find one of us on Twitter, and we'll get you a free
Preferably
week.
Devin. Find Devin.
The next one will be Mike Kellanoy, who put loaded fries. I'm going to be honest with you. Putting loaded in front of entrees, like certain food dishes, that's my favorite way to like have. Like my wife goes, "Oh, what do you want? What do you want for dinner?" And I go, "You know what? Let's take mac and cheese and we'll make it loaded."
How does one make it standard? To
Oh,
loaded?
Dean, there is so much you can do to make something loaded. It could be.
All right.
I mean, we'll just use this example. All right, mac and cheese. Throw some
Example.
chili beans and eggs.
Yeah,
Yeah, throw
Boston
some
Lakers,
throw some
we'll
deviled
talk
eggs
about
in there. Yeah, no. All right. So Mike and T Kearney, both of you guys, hit us up on Twitter. We'll get you some free combo premium.
All right, let's knock out this last game. The Crunch Time crew will talk about it plenty as well. Boston versus the Lakers, back half of the ESPN doubleheader. I'm just going to step aside and yield. Robert Williams, no Time Lord just yet. I think Boston's not playing again until Friday, so he probably gets unleashed on Friday. Also, no Al Horford for Boston. Lakers are fully healthy. Everybody's good to go. Doesn't matter when Gabriel's injured, but JTA as well. But yeah, standard Laker lineup is available. This is the Hammer game, 10 o'clock, latest game on the slate. I think it's going to be kind of ignored. LeBron and Davis especially on Fanduel where he's like 12K. It's going to be hard to get to those guys. Tatum and Brown, obviously awesome. Just, a matter of salary cap. And this is where it sounds like your lineup's already set. You're talking about playing a bunch of players in other games.
I don't even have any money on DraftKings.
Yeah. You can't afford LeBron. You can't afford Davis.
No, I don't even have like any. I would have to deposit into my account to run that lineup.
Slide into the DM and give it to me, and I'll we'll work something out. Go ahead. Your thoughts as far as Boston and the Lakers?
Tatum, Brown. That's it on Boston. Anthony Davis. That's it on LA. Like that's really all I have interested in this game. It's a close spread. I think all three of them are phenomenal tournament plays. If on DraftKings you land on Malcolm Brogdon as a last piece at 4,800 or Marcus Smart as a last piece 59, like I don't think that's horrible. Grant Williams at 4,200 on DraftKings, like if you land on that as a last piece, you don't want to play Larry Nance because you think Alvarado is going to close. Like I think that's an interesting late night hammer tournament option. Heck, maybe even you want to play Blake Griffin. I don't want to play Blake.
No.
But like, you know what I mean? Like there are options that I'd want to get like if I was running 150 and I landed on something as a last piece in those value spots. I think there are worse things than you could do, but for the most part, it's AD, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown is the only guys I really want to get to.
Biggest ownership stuff we have right now on DK is Brogdon because the price is pretty good at 4.8K, 24%. Smart's got a pretty good price as well at 5.9. Don't mind that. Jaylen Brown's now in the 9, still getting 18%, which do we have to refresh this ownership stuff? It might change. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? This ownership stuff's going to change a little bit. I probably should hit refresh on it. How much of the team's on it or not? They'll hit it before lock for sure. But I imagine some of this stuff is going to be going to Milwaukee and that we talked about already with the absence of Holiday. I did give it a refresh. And okay, we do have a change.
Let's give the viewers here a little note. On the top of your lineup HQ page, you see projection source and projected own. If the projected own is before the premium projections, you have not got updated ownership yet. Make sure the ownership is after the projections timestamp.
I never really thought about it that way, but that you just blew all our minds there, Devin. Look at you.
Well, that's not just for the viewers. That's for us too. Damn.
I'm a power user on lineup HQ. All right.
This is how you end up with like 30% Evan Ingram on the weekend. So, yeah, we got to take. Do you have a PowerPoint presentation available that I can watch? Because I feel like I can learn some more.
I'm trying to remember the Office quote. PowerPoint is the I forget what the Office quote is. PowerPoint's like the something of the presentation world.
PowerPoint.
Every day I wake up, it's the worst day of my life. Brogdon, yeah, still 24%. I guess this has not changed so much. Smart at 20, Brown at 18, Grant Williams at 15%. I guess we got some minutes per
Dundee game. Award for best producer goes to Devin.
Not Bushiest. All right. Favorite Laker is LeBron.
Top producer goes to Devin.
Dean just trying to derail it.
How amazing would it be if we had Dundies? That would be fun.
It says Bushies.
I figured somebody would catch that. There you go. Yeah. What would you win, TJ, for the Dundies?
Whitest tennis shoes. We've been over this. Whitest tennis shoes is my. Yeah, that's my victory.
Who are you competing against? Like nobody. How would they even know? This is like an honor system thing. I have no clue.
I don't know, but the award I won today actually wasn't a Dundee. It was clip that because that was fantastic. I just missed my chair.
What just happened? I heard a loud crash. Are you okay?
Of course, Dean didn't hear
my
it.
Chair.
I gotta hit rewind. Is this in the DVR?
Oh god, that was fantastic. Yeah, you're gonna have to hit rewind because it's a good thing I can laugh at myself because that was embarrassing. I just won the best sweater award I won this Chucky Finster from Rugrats on behalf of my Rugrats sweater.
There you
go.
go.
That was fantastic. I hate that the Crunch Time guys are already behind the scenes here, so they got to see that.
Hey, hopefully they jumped on early so they can see what's going on. But yeah, there's STL Cards he's not visually here, but he's behind the scenes and he enjoyed what's going on. Cards, give me a replay because I missed it unfortunately. What just happened there?
He fell out of his chair. I don't know what happened. I've definitely been in that boat before, but not on the air.
That is without a doubt the most embarrassing thing to ever happen to me on air.
RotoGrinders or everything because I know you have your other stuff too. But is that all across the board?
I am live streaming on total probably like 10 to 15 hours a week. And that is the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me on there. I went up to grab the Chucky Funko. And then when I went back, the chair wasn't there anymore because it's on wheels.
You got to watch out for those wheelie chairs.
Hey, Roth, you were on like national TV programs. You probably have like a go-to story. Like what's the goofiest thing, most embarrassing thing you've ever done on your daytime shows?
The worst thing that ever happened, we were under like drought restrictions, like watering restrictions because of a drought. And so I'm explaining this, doing the weather, and randomly production pops up a photo of a Marine on my green screen. So I'm cool and I'm smooth and I'm like, just don't water your lawn like this guy. He's not going to be watering his lawn. I toss it back. Just breaking news, Marine from local area just died.
Oh,
and I was just like this guy, he won't be watering his lawn. And then the next story was that. So that was the worst thing that I've ever done on air by far. I thought I was going to get fired.
Yeah, that's a tough break right there.
Yeah, I thought I was being smooth, and I was not. I should have known that like if they're popping up a photo of a Marine, it's probably not like a happy story.
Also, Kevin, did your daughter get to your microphone today, Kevin?
Oh, does my mic suck? Oh, yeah. Hang on.
TJ, got anything for the boys here before you step aside and make way for crunch time? I thought Andy was here. Maybe it was a late swap. Maybe I missed something. We got Keith stepping in, as well as SDL Cards. But TJ, what do we have to ask? Any sort of questions for the boys? Or are we stepping aside? We're going to make our own lineups and let the crunch time do its thing.
Look, we got our likes up over 125. There's going to be a GIF of me falling out of my chair saying when your core play gets late swapped after lock and all of a sudden you just fall out of your chair, something like that. I got to just get out of here because I've embarrassed myself enough.
Fanduel sponsored Crunch Time with Keith, with Cards, with Roth. It starts right now. Take it away, Roth.
Welcome to it. It is indeed Crunch Time. It is indeed sponsored by Fanduel. We're going to try to keep our butts in the chairs here as we go through the next 30 minutes or so. And we're going to walk you through this slate, joined by a couple of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got one STL Cards. What up, Cards?
Yeah, not much fun slate tonight. I'm rather enjoying this for a small slate. I think there's some interesting strategy on the slate. We should have most of the news. It's kind of dropped here in the last 20 minutes that Drew Holiday is going to be out tonight and De'Aaron Fox is going to play. So those are kind of the two big ones we were waiting for. Hopefully no more bombshells tonight. Our little guy that's been ill for the last 8 or 9 days with a leg infection is all better and it's cleared up and we're finally we're on the up and up here in the Van Zuiden household. So it's a good day.
Hey, glad to hear it, man. I know that was not very fun. But hey, guess what? We're also joined by another brilliant DFS mind. It's the Iceman himself. 5 games. You liking what you're seeing here, Ice?
Yeah, I mean, as far as 5-gamers go, I think there's some very interesting angles to play on this short slate. We've got a bunch of stars on the slate, a couple popular games early, maybe a couple of really good games that have high totals late that maybe aren't getting enough attention as they should be. So I think it's a nice little slate here, despite only 5 games. And it cannot be worse than the NFL Showdown slate last night, where Kyler Murray was hurt on the third play, who was like 80% owned, and Ramondre Stevenson, 80+% owned. It's got to be better than that. So happy to have some NBA tonight.
Okay, well, don't jinx it, because you know how things go in this biz. But let's talk about this slate a little bit, guys. Cards, you want to give us an overview and kind of dive through a FanDuel build? Or let me pause. Who wants to do the cash stuff? Cards, can you handle that?
I can. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. So then you can lead us off with a little cash talk.
Yeah, I think, every team in some fashion is targetable tonight. We've had a lot of slates where these shorter slates, you get the kind of the crappier teams, but they've changed around the NBA schedule for those that don't maybe follow it as close. Like Thursday night used to be the night for the big like TNT national TV games. So that's Tuesday nights now. So a lot of times you get some of these marquee teams playing on Tuesday nights. So that's why you see like Golden State and Milwaukee, and then you got Boston and the Lakers and the other games. While they're not maybe as high profile teams, you got Utah that's been a bit of a surprise. New Orleans, I think, has the best record in the Western Conference right now. Of course, the Suns are pretty good. So basically every team on the slate is interesting in some capacity, and everybody has a team total. The lowest team total on the slate is 109. So should be a relatively high scoring night in terms of the games themselves, but it's not like, the cash build is going to be somewhat obvious, but it's not like we've got guys that are 70-80% owned on the slate. So it does open up some angles in GPPs as well. And that's why I think it's pretty interesting. And as we start to go through, like, you're going to notice a lot of the chalk, and it's not extreme to the point that we've seen on some other slates, but a lot of the chalk is going to be Phoenix. Devin Booker, who's obviously been scoring a ton of points, he's out tonight. So basically that's a lot of production there with Phoenix to go around with their other players. So Chris Paul is probably the first guy in most cash game lineups tonight. Revenge angle, if you want to take it that way, against one of his former teams. And he's only 7,200. I mean, he's just kind of getting back in the swing of things himself. And Booker went nuts while Paul was out. And now Paul has come back. And the numbers haven't been fantastic the first few games, but the assists are fine. The shooting will come around. And the minutes, the minutes restriction basically is gone. He's played 33 and 34 minutes the last couple games. We've got him at 32 tonight, which is fairly conservative, and he still grades out real well. So I think Chris Paul is probably my first choice at point guard. From there, there's probably a few different cash game options you can consider. I think Mike Conley is even viable. That's probably as low as I would go at 5,900. And Javon Carter as well with the Drew Holiday news. So we didn't bump up his projection quite as much as I would have expected. Carter played pretty well when he was given the opportunity earlier this year. He's probably as cheap as you could go at 4,600, but I don't think it's necessary in cash. Keith can talk about how he feels about Carter in tournaments, but that'd basically be the one viable guy down there. Otherwise, you're probably in some combination of all these guys here that are point guard and shooting guard eligible. Poole, Smart, McCollum, I probably Harden probably doesn't fit an optimal for me. I think he's just a bit too expensive, but Jalen Green, you can kind of live in this range with your point guard and shooting guard picks, and kind of mix and match those mid-range plays. The balanced build plays pretty well tonight with cash games, I think. So if we highlight like the other guards, guys that are shooting guard, small forward eligible, Middleton and Giannis are both going to project pretty well. A little bit of a bump with Holiday out. I think if you are spending top dollar on a high-end play tonight in cash, it's probably Giannis. Though I don't think he's absolutely mandatory, because at these wing spots, you've got Poole, who I already mentioned, Jaylen Brown, who's been playing really well. Mikal Bridges, he could play 40 minutes tonight with Booker out. Not that he's the most exciting high-usage guy on the planet, but it's not like he's PJ Tucker out there. And if he's going to play close to 40 minutes, it's super safe. Grayson Allen is probably going to benefit the most from a opportunity perspective, I guess, with Milwaukee, with with Holiday being out. He's 4,400, so and he's going to be pretty popular on FanDuel at that salary. So these mid-range guys, I think Poole, Bridges, Middleton, and Marcus Smart, that price is uncomfortable, but it's like a statement type of game for Boston on the road, one of those national TV games, and they have the highest team total on the slate. So I don't love playing Marcus Smart, particularly at that tag, but I think he's okay. If you're looking to go super cheap, I do think that Pat Connaughton and Torrey Craig are viable, but I think Grayson Allen would be my first choice in that range. So
Cards,
those are
real
kind of-
quick.
Yeah.
House is out. I think that maybe is just breaking. I'm not sure if that was planned on or not.
Okay, yeah, that
We
should
were
not
expecting
affect
that. Yep.
that should not affect the projections too much. So
Very good.
and then you talk power forwards and centers. Again, Giannis is probably my priority spend tonight. That's not to say that you can't play Embiid, because it's not like there's another center that you have to play, and they're only $200 difference, and we've only got Embiid and Giannis projected like 1 point apart, and Embiid like went nuts on Sunday. So in tournaments, I definitely think Embiid's the better play at about half the ownership. In cash games, if you're choosing between the two, I probably still lean towards Giannis, but it's not as obvious as I think our ownership projections have kind of lay it out there. I think you can probably get one of the two. You're probably not getting both in cash. I think that thins out your lineup a little too much. Draymond is fine in cash. Looney is fine. He's been playing a few more minutes. We always used to kind of waffle on whether his minutes were safe, outside of one outlier there, which I think might have been foul trouble, or he got banged up. 27, 27, 29, 26. So, again, he's fairly safe now. Dario Saric is probably cash viable if he starts. I don't think we've seen a Phoenix starting lineup yet. I can look to see if we've got any updates when Keith is talking. If he's not starting, I'm probably not playing him in cash, because, again, these mid-range guys like Draymond are probably where you can go with your cash game plays. And I do think Sabonis is a really interesting play as well. Maybe a slight bump down with Fox back, but if you can't get up to like the Embiids and Giannis's at power forward and center, I think Sabonis is fine as well. I mean, 4 straight 45 plus games there before a little bit of a dip his last time out. But there's a lot of different ways you can go here. I just think that if you start, like if I put, let's see, Meansy's core plays are Bridges, Paul, and Draymond, which I'm fine with. They're all mid-range guys. And so and let's plug in a couple other guys that I think are probably really good for cash. So we say Jaylen Brown and Jordan Poole, for example. See, that leaves you with $62.75 per player. You're kind of just on that steady, balanced build. Maybe you get one stud in there like Giannis and one punt, like a Grayson Allen or a Saric if he starts. But otherwise, I think kind of go on that level. Lots of 6, 7, 8K plays tonight. I think that's how the cash game build works on FanDuel.
Okay, good stuff, Cards. Keith, let's talk about what we're doing here in GPPs. What stands out to you on this slate?
The thing that stands out to me is just the amount of studs that are available, and it's leaving some guys who we would normally want to play on full slates, even under own on a short 5-game slate. Cards talking about Giannis and Embiid, and both of them are great. Giannis hasn't been hitting a ceiling as often. Now Drew's out tonight, and that obviously helps his chances. He also gets a nice pace-up spot against Golden State, so I certainly understand him being the cash play. But we've seen Embiid hit a ceiling much more often than Giannis in this spot. And then a guy nobody's playing, especially on FanDuel, is Anthony Davis. And I know it's never comfortable to play Anthony Davis because he ends up in the locker room so much. But this guy's going for like 75 fantasy points a night here over the last like 2 weeks. He's just been playing amazing. He's a better play on DraftKings where he's a little bit cheaper. But that ownership number is extremely tempting here on FanDuel, even as the most expensive player on the slate. We have 5 games. It's a decent matchup against Boston, who has not been as good defensively this year as they were last year. So I want some Anthony Davis. I think that he has as good of a chance as Giannis and Embiid to be the top overall scorer on the slate. I absolutely love Zion at 9,800. Jason Tatum is another guy that's not getting played at all, and he is in the MVP conversation, could certainly just go absolutely nuts. And then Steph Curry is another guy with a massive ceiling that we're showing with 12% ownership here on FanDuel. So I think there are a lot of interesting ways to get different at the top. I will end up underweight on Giannis because he hasn't hit a ceiling as much as some of these other guys like Embiid and Davis. Even Zion, I'm putting in that conversation as a guy who could just absolutely break the slate with a massive score. So I like getting different at the top end here.
Okay.
The value
Sure. In order to do that, you're going to need some cheap guys, though. And is there like chalky cheap guys? Or there kind of off the wall cheap guys? Who are you plugging in down there?
Yeah. So with Drew out, there's some value in Milwaukee. We're going to see Connaughton get a little bit more run. Javon Carter probably handles the ball a little bit more. Grayson Allen might see an uptick in usage. I don't mind any of those three guys. None of them are standout values. But I think on a short slate, it's kind of what we're dealing with. And I'm completely fine with them. There's some value in Phoenix as well with Devin Booker out. Cards mentioned Torrey Craig. I don't mind even pivoting to guys like Cameron Payne, Damian Lee. Saric, if he's in the starting lineup, is fine, but he hasn't been playing a ton of minutes. I think Damian Lee is a usage guy off the bench, or Cameron Payne are the guys I would prefer for tournaments. So decent pivots within the Phoenix team there. And then to go a little even further off the board, I think we can look at Philly. DeAnthony Melton was ruled out. So I believe we're projecting Korkmaz to start right now. He is very cheap, not a high usage guy, but he's 3,700. And then Shake Milton is the other guy I would look at just 5K. I think he makes for a very interesting pivot. He was smashing when Harden was out. Now with Melton out, maybe he gets a little bit more run. A guy we've seen get his minutes up into the mid 30s before. So projected for 28, but we could see a little bit more run there. Anytime he's not on the floor with Harden, I expect that usage to be pretty strong.
Okay, very good. Cards, I think you're muted, bud.
Yeah, sorry, had a cough there for a second. The interesting thing about Philly that you mentioned there is, A, they're somewhat shorthanded, and B, right now we've got Tucker and Thibault projected for 56 total minutes, and that's 56 empty minutes, so that usage has to go somewhere because Tucker and Thibault aren't doing anything offensively, particularly if they're out there together. So I think those Philly guys are interesting in tournaments tonight. I kind of agree with Keith on that because most people are going to look to Phoenix and Milwaukee.
Okay, good stuff. Ice, anything you want to add here on FanDuel before we move it over, talk some DK with cards?
Just one more note, just kind of overall slate. Utah is a team that's not getting played at all. Their team total is just as strong as everybody else on this slate. They're at 115.5. I love Zion. I also think CJ McCollum is too cheap. So I'm targeting that as a game stack more than I think the field will be. It's not comfortable playing Utah. Like it seems like a different guy every night for them. Markkanen's been doing it the most often. Conley is back now. He's a little bit underpriced. He's never a sexy GPP play. He's only 5,900. I think he can certainly pay that off. I like targeting these Utah guys as well.
Okay, good stuff. Cards, let's talk some DK here. Let's kind of just walk through a cash build. Tell me what's different.
Yeah, a few things that are different. And if I highlight Meansy's core plays, you'll see a couple of them. And mostly with Milwaukee. So Middleton is 6,900 on FanDuel. He's 6K on DraftKings. So that gives him a little bit more appeal on DK. And then the big one is that Javon Carter's only $3,300. And a lot of times the Roth special, that 3K punt guy on DraftKings, can make a big difference. And whereas on FanDuel, where Carter's 4,600, it's not necessarily a must-have in cash games. I do think you probably put Carter on your DK team because in general the cap is a little bit tougher to navigate, and that $3,300 price tag does make a big difference. And it's not like Carter is a slouch when he's out there. With both Giannis and Middleton active, his usage might not be the same as what it was earlier in the year when he saw extended minutes, but should still be enough, I think, to pay off a $3,300 price tag. So I think Carter is in the mix. Ayton is a little more accessible on DraftKings as well. So you can see those core tags that means he has are a little bit different on DK. And I do agree with the way he's approached that. So if we kind of go through the positions again, most of the plays the cash plays are largely the same. Again, it's a 5-game slate, so there's not going to be a ton of differentiation. But again, I already mentioned Carter. He's more viable. Marcus Smart is a little bit more viable for cash games on DK. He's under 6,000. That's about 500 cheaper, I think, than he is on FanDuel. And he's, just a little bit more than Mike Conley. So again, as uncomfortable as it is to roster Marcus Smart, I think he's fine at that salary. I would probably play him in cash before I played Brogdon, whose minutes are a little less secure, even though Brogdon's a little bit cheaper. So my point guard, shooting guard combos on DraftKings are largely Paul, Carter, maybe a little Marcus Smart mixed in there in cash. McCollum is fine at 6,900. I think that I'm kind of indifferent at that price, but if he fits your build, he's fine. At the shooting guard, small forward spots, Middleton is the lock at small forward. Bridges is certainly in play just as well on DraftKings. It's just that with Middleton being cheaper, Middleton's going to get a little bit more ownership on DK. Don't be alarmed by the fact that Bridges' ownership is a little bit lower than it is on FanDuel. He's still really safe, and he's fine at 6,100. You got Poole in there, Smart, who I've already mentioned, and then you've got the cheaper guys, the Connaughtons, Grayson Allen. You might see some traction on Damian Lee even in cash games on DK. I'd probably put him below Carter and probably Connaughton as well in terms of my interest in the 3K guys. But in tournaments, for the reasons that Keith mentioned a little bit ago, I mean, what happens if one of these Phoenix guys gets in foul trouble, right? If Bridges gets in foul trouble or something, they're so thin there on the wings that maybe Damian Lee ends up getting 35 minutes tonight. So really like that pivot in tournaments, along with kind of those same mid-range guys that we're playing over on FanDuel. We get to the front court spots. Largely the same. Giannis will be the chalk spend up in cash games, just like he is on FanDuel. You're still not going to get a lot of people playing Embiid because Ayton is going to be popular at 7,200. The Anthony Davis discussion becomes even more interesting, as Keith mentioned. He's more appealing on DK. If you can get there in cash, like if you can't quite get to Giannis at 11.9 or Embiid at 11.7. As frustrating as he has been over the years, I'm totally fine with playing Anthony Davis in cash at 11.1. If that's your stud piece and you've got, say, 11.3 left, you can play Anthony Davis in cash on DraftKings. Wouldn't do it on FanDuel at 12K, but on DraftKings, I think he's fine. I don't really have a strong take on Grant Williams. He's safe enough. He's probably going to play heavy minutes. But he just doesn't project all that well. He's not great on a permanent basis. I'd still probably prefer some of the cheap guards. Saric, if he starts, is fine. But in general, I think the cheaper options come at those wing positions with the guys like Connaughton and Javon Carter. They are a little bit safer for cash games for your punt plays. And then maybe you can get to, Ayton or Zion or Anthony Davis or Giannis as your spend ups in the front court.
Okay, very good. Ice, let's run through, if you could go position by position on DK, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I can do that. Just a real quick note is Phoenix has some really great pricing on DK, and not just the cheap guys. I'm talking Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton are showing us some of the best values on the slate here on DK just because of their pricing. So I'm more likely to target the higher end Phoenix guys here. And maybe try to find the 3K value with the Javon Carters, the Philly guys we talked about. Just wanted to know, like Ayton and Paul are much stronger plays here on DK. Just going through a couple pivots position by position here. Like Damian Lee is one of my favorite ways to get different on the cheap end. We've talked about that plenty. Pat Connaughton even. Like the value I think is fine because there's 2 or 3 options on each of the 3 teams that are in play. So I think you can mix and match those. It's not like we're going to see one of those spike up to a 40%, 50% range. They're all going to be in like that mid 20s to 30% owned. So I think the value is fine. Wouldn't be shy away from that. More embracing it and just hoping you hit on the guy who runs into the extra 4 or 5 minutes and gets hot shooting or whatever and gets you your 25 fantasy points, and that's good enough on this slate to get up to some of the studs. So outside of Paul here, I think CJ McCollum is the most interesting to me. He hasn't shot well since coming back from injury, but he has just a fantastic matchup against Utah here. He's underpriced for where he is as a player, rather, like a talent level. And then De'Aaron Fox is another one, just coming back from injury. I would say we're being a little bit conservative on the minutes at 32. Like if he was healthy and playing, like he's a guy that can get up to 35 minutes pretty easily. We're playing a bunch of Philly, Embiid in particular. I like Harden as well. So running that back in the first game of the night, I think there's no one that's playing Fox. And he's typically like a 9K player when he's healthy and has been playing full minutes. So I think he's slightly priced even in a tough matchup. A couple of forwards that I really like for tournaments. Zion is one of my favorite plays on the slate. He's just a little bit cheaper than some of the other studs, but he has shown the ceiling. Like he's just scoring 50 fantasy points a night. This is an excellent matchup against Utah here. They give up the most points in the paint, and we know that's where Zion does his work. So this is an excellent matchup for Zion. I mentioned, see here, Anthony Davis is another one that I absolutely love as a pivot off of Giannis and Embiid. Larry Nance is a guy we haven't talked about, another one of those Pelicans guys. I mentioned being heavier on this Pelicans-Utah game than I think the field will be. There are just as strong of plays in this game as there are in the much more chalkier Philly-Sacramento game and the Golden State-Milwaukee game. So I love this New Orleans-Utah game as kind of the GPP pivot to target as a game stack. Couple more centers here. I mentioned AD. Şengün for Houston, I think, is an interesting pivot. He can put up big numbers per minute. Just talked about Larry Nance. And then Jabari Smith for Houston, another guy on the other side. I'm playing a lot of Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, even at chalk. So I'm really looking for that Houston run back. Şengün and Jabari Smith are my two favorites to do that, just saving a little bit of money off of a Jalen Green or a Kevin Porter.
Okay, very good. Cards, Ice, anything you want to add? We've got 11 whole minutes for QQs, if not.
I don't think I have anything else.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think, the slate ends up being somewhat straightforward because we're not, like, at this stage, I didn't feel like we were running, ahead of schedule. It's just that the slate is relatively straightforward at this point because we got the news on Holiday, who would have been kind of a what-if scenario we'd have to talk about. We got the news on De'Aaron Fox, who would have been a what-if scenario. There's literally not another kind of rosterable player on this slate that has a questionable tag at this point. It's very strange. The amount of slates we have that, even on like 4 or 5 game slates, is pretty small. So, it makes the slate somewhat straightforward just because we're not waiting on a bunch of that news. So that's, I guess that's why we're ahead of schedule a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. We've got some good questions coming in, mostly GPP stuff. So Ice, get ready. Let's see. We'll start right here. FanDuel GPP, Ice, Nance, or Portis?
I would go Nance there. I think I love that matchup against Utah. Maybe a little bit more opportunity with Drew out, but I don't think that affects Portis all that much. He gets his minutes generally anyway. Give me Nance.
Okay, and then this is just a follow-up. Sean's got another question. I'm finding myself not playing anyone in the Boston Lakers game in FanDuel GPPs. Is that a mistake?
I've talked about Anthony Davis a ton. I love him as a play. I think the only way you need to play it, exposure to Anthony Davis, maybe a little bit of LeBron. I just feel better about AD's ceiling than I do LeBron. And then the Boston side, it's Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. What that puts you into, though, is you're pivoting your expensive spends away from the Giannis and the Embiid. So it's not a very comfortable feeling, but I think it would be a mistake to completely fade it, yes.
Okay, and this is assuming he's running a bunch of entries, whereas if you're just running one entry, you're completely fine with that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say Giannis and Embiid are stronger plays, and if I only had one lineup, I would probably choose one of those two over a Jason Tatum and an Anthony Davis stack. But if I had even just 10 lineups, I would make sure to have that stack in at least one of them.
Okay, good stuff. Let's see. DK Cash, why no Harden? Any interest in Harden?
I mean, I think Harden's fine. The problem is just that the guard spots are where you're going to get the value. And he's 9,700, so it's not like he's that big of a discount from Giannis or Davis or even Embiid. A little bit of a discount, but I mean, if we look at our point per dollar projections, right, we've got Harden at 4.91. We've got Davis at 4.87. We've got Embiid at 4.95, and we've got Giannis at 5.02. So, I just prefer to get a little higher up to Giannis if you can, and you're probably not getting both Giannis and Harden together on DK. So Harden's fine, but I think he's a better tournament play than cash game play.
Okay, all right. Favorite spend up in FanDuel single entry from Carolina guy. You had a lot of favorite spend ups, to be fair, but if you had to just pick one, who's your guy?
I think the first guy is Zion Williamson. If we're going over 10K, it's a little different conversation, but Zion is the guy I know I want in the lineup.
Okay, very good. Speaking of which, D-Rock says, DKGPP Ice, can I do McCollum and Zion together, or should I play Porter over McCollum?
So McCollum's price, I think, makes it viable. Utah has been really poor on the defensive end they started out okay, but they're down to like 25th in defensive rating. They play at a fast pace. This is a great spot for New Orleans. I'm fine with them together.
Okay, very good. Yappy says, DKGPP, which Utah player do you want to run it back with?
Yeah, a couple options. Ideally Markkanen, but the value is not great on the slate, and he's priced up the most. I would say Conley and his price is who I have the most exposure to. But
very good. And then
Markkanen and Clarkson are fine as well.
Okay, great. DKGPP, pick one. Giannis, Embiid, AD. You love Giannis is lowest on your list out of those three guys. I know that much.
That's correct. Yep, I'd go AD, Embiid, Giannis.
Yeah. All right. DK Cash, here you go, cards. So right back at you here. Connaughton is a 3v3. Connaughton, Poole, Giannis, or Bridges, Kellyo, and Harden.
I would do the first one in cash games.
Okay. Aside, FanDuel Cash question cards. Poole or Sma, straight up. And that's that Boston accent. Smart.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I mean, that's close. Let's see where we have them. So we have Poole at 36 fantasy points, and we got Smart at 32. But Smart, was this FanDuel or DraftKings?
This was FanDuel Cash.
Yeah, FanDuel, Smart's a little bit, I think they're both, Poole is the same price on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings, and Smart is a little more expensive on FanDuel, where they're basically the same salary. So I would go with Poole for sure on FanDuel.
Very good. DKGPP question for you. Ice, Nance, and Brogdon, or Connaughton and your boy Şengün?
I'd go the second one there.
Very nice. Okay. DKGPP, Zion and Lee, or Bridges and McCollum?
Both very good. I prefer the first one.
Nice. FanDuel GPP, Nance or J-Val?
What's J-Val's price? Not somebody I landed on a ton just because he's center only. You can play Nance at power forward, which helps. Yeah, I mean, that was DK?
This was FanDuel GPP, Nance or J-Val.
Okay. Yeah, they're the exact same price. J-Val being center only, I don't like because I love a ton of center plays. But just straight up, the answer is J-Val.
Okay, very good. FanDuel Cash cards, you want Connaughton or Sarge?
Yeah, Connaughton definitely. I mean, if Sarge starts, maybe it's close, but I feel a lot more comfortable with Connaughton.
Okay, I love this question from Mike. He's going for the old Roth special here. Opening up to both of you. FanDuel GPP, your favorite scrub play at 4K or less, not including Connaughton, trying to get AD, Curry, and Zion in the lineup. Yeah.
This was FanDuel under 4K?
Yeah, at 4K or under.
Yeah, it's a little tougher over there. Let's see. So, let me sort by. So if we sort by point per dollar, you'll see. I mean, Connaughton is the first guy that comes up at 3,900. Saric at 3,800, the two guys that the other user just asked about. And then there's nobody grading out point per dollar. I mean, you start to get into the uncomfortable range. Like, nobody wants to play Jock Landale.
So then it's Saric.
Well, it's Connaughton or Saric, one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's already got Connaughton.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. That's going to be the problem. Is though, if that's going to be a relatively popular build, all the studs plus Connaughton and Saric for those that are jamming in the high end guys. I think if I was building a lineup like that, I'd make sure you get at least one guy that's kind of a differentiator for in terms of ownership.
I'll throw two names out there for they're both Philly guys. Furkan Korkmaz, if he's starting, I think there's a potential for him to see 20 minutes. And Niang as the guy off the bench who can make a bunch of threes and kind of get there. What you're hoping for is that one of those guys outscores Saric, and then like you pass that same construction that has Connaughton and Saric.
Okay, good stuff, guys. Let's see. DK Cash question here, cards. We've got about 2-3 minutes left here. Connaughton Smart or Allen Brogdon?
Yeah, I don't love Brogdon and Cash, so I'd go with the first one.
Okay, very good. DK Cash, this is a 3v3 cards. Connaughton Poole Joval or Lee Bridges Şengün?
I like the first one a little better. I don't really like Joval and Cash, but I didn't really like the second one that much either. So I like the first one, but I'd maybe rework it to get to some other center.
Okay, very good. Arlo says, any love for Grant Williams as a GPP play on DK as a pivot off of some of those value plays?
I get it. No, I mean, I prefer the Philly guys as pivots, even the Phoenix guys. Like I said, like none of them are going to be extremely high owned. They're all in the 20 to 30% range. So he's fine, but I prefer some of the others.
Okay, very good. FanDuel single entry ice, Grayson or Lee. Note, I also have Pat C and Craig in this lineup.
Yeah, so you've got a piece of each team already. I think Grayson and Pat C play a similar style, and I think they're pretty negatively correlated. So I would go the Phoenix guy there.
Okay,
Lee,
very
I believe
nice.
it was.
Yep. All right, FanDuel cash cards, Carter Brown or Alan Saboner?
Yeah, go the first one.
All right, FanDuel cash, Looney v. Craig, 1v1.
Oh, boy. I mean, I think it's Looney, though it's close in cash game formats. I think it's definitely Looney in GPPs. Really, I think you could go either way. I really don't have a strong take. So if you're uncomfortable with Looney, I'm fine with Craig. Otherwise, I'd probably play Looney.
Okay, DK GPP, Porter Jr. or Jalen Green from Steve Oak?
I'll go Jalen Green.
Okay, less than a minute until lock. FanDuel cash, 3v3 cards. Shake, Smart, Giannis, or Allen, Harden, Sabonis?
I'd probably lean the first one, though. That one's pretty close.
Okay, Beaner says, any thoughts on Middleton Ice?
Yeah, I think he's extremely interesting, especially without Drew. I think the minutes are conservative as well. There's a chance he gets 35 minutes. We've got him projected for 31. He's a great play tonight, in my opinion.
Okay, very good. With that, we have hit the lock. Don't forget, guys, sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you haven't already done so. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their bonus offer. It is exclusive to this week. Bet $5, get $125 back in free bets. And don't forget to give us that little thumbs up on the YouTube for all this free content. Let's see. Devin, is it accurate that today you may be going curling immediately after the show?
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, I'm not. I was anticipating the NFL schedule, which is typically NFL shows up until the late night Tuesday night. Usually golf as well, but not this currently season. But the schedule's changed, so Britt had to move the show to the earlier in the day. Head counts already got taken, so I can't go.
I feel like you could just show up and it'll be okay.
I probably could. I could probably.
Have
just
you
be
ever
like,
done this? Have you ever done it before?
Yeah,
I haven't, no, but I have a sneaky sususpicion that I'd be really good at it.
So,
you gotta go. I feel like you just get on your bicycle and just bike on down there and make it happen, man.
So in a thing, it's a really weird. My one of my wife's cousins is from Wisconsin, and so in Wisconsin, high school curling is a thing. Like she
Oh.
was on an
Story checks
actual high school curling team and they were like really good. And she told this story at Christmas one time. It was really fascinating. Like curling in high school, like I didn't even know it was a thing outside of random Olympic sport and a half professional league somewhere. But
that sounds
yeah.
so fun. Like instead of you're on the football team or basketball team, you're doing suicides and wind sprints. Curling training, you're just hanging out with your friends, just kind of goofing off
With a broom.
Like, right. That sounds amazing.
I'd be hard pressed to believe you could pull some budget from the Birmingham, Alabama high school that I went to out of the football team toward the curling.
Probably
team.
not. You're
Yeah.
probably not getting any curling there.
The tall ask, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, seems unlikely. All right. With that, we are going to get on out of here. So for Cards, for Ice, for Devin, and the rest of our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.